Marketer of the Day, episode 525. Become number one. Proof of concept, objection-driven offers, and premium services with growth advisor Carl Gould.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We're going to be talking today about growth hacks, big wins, and so much more. We're talking with Carl Gould, and Carl is a business growth expert. He's a mentor, an entrepreneur, and he built 3 multi-million-dollar businesses by age 40. He's mentored the launch of over 5,000 businesses. He's trained and certified over 7,000 business coaches in 35 countries. He's written 3 best-selling books. He has tons of accomplishments, and he's going to be telling us today what us business owners need to know about our strategies, our teams, and everything that entails. So, Carl, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, Robert, thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share some ideas with you.
Heck yeah, my pleasure. I love ideas. I'm sure we'll have some fun. So, what are you all about? What's your focus lately?
Well, I'm a growth advisory, run a growth advisory firm. We spend our time with working with small to mid-market businesses that want to just take it to the next level and may have plateaued and are not sure. They at one point they probably differentiated themselves well, but maybe not so much now. And as a result, they want to know what's the latest, the greatest, and how can they get back on that growth trajectory.
Well, great. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that sort of, middle age of a business problem, right? Of starting off and anything's possible, going to work the long hours, going to take all kinds of risks, and then maybe making some money, getting some traction, and then maybe resting on their laurels for a little bit. So why the heck does that happen? Why do some of these businesses plateau in this way you're describing?
Well, if you think about it, it's actually rather common, and it's really not all that unusual, because if you think about it, if you're going to launch a product or a service, you would do all of your research, find the ideal client avatar, understand what their needs are, and then all of that time in preparation that goes into launching that product or service, you then have to let it run its course. And any product or any brand comes to a point where it's not as cutting edge as it once was. And so the trick is, how do you not only sustain the life cycle of that product or brand or service, but also refresh it over time? And what happens is you get so used, you get into this feast or famine. You get into this roller coaster of servicing your current clientele with your current service offerings. And while you're working with them, you're not putting your eyes to the horizon and finding out what is the next best thing and how do I update my product so it remains cutting edge. The companies will turn their attention inward towards their product in order to make sure they're getting the most out of the life cycle of that particular product. And then you wake up one day and you say, "Oh, what do you mean nobody's wearing turtlenecks anymore? When did corduroys go out of style? I totally missed that," And so, when your nose is down in implementation, you can't always see to the horizon, and vice versa.
Interesting. So it's like too much focusing on the present and not enough on the future. And, what really terrified me maybe 10 years ago was seeing what happened to MySpace. Like this huge site, everyone was using it. And then after a couple of years, it seemed like they just stagnated, didn't really add to the site, and then people jumped ship, and then everyone jumped ship to Facebook. And for a couple of years, I was expecting the same cycle to happen, but it seemed like, Facebook went and bought Instagram, they added messaging, they added sharing. It seemed like Facebook kept on adding all this cool stuff to their platform. And every time you open the app, it looks a little bit different. They're always changing it up, and just to freaking survive, right? They have to keep on adding in new stuff and looking for the future just to hang on to the people they have, it seems like.
Yeah, BlackBerry, Blockbuster Video. These are all companies that thought things were going to stay the same forever. And really, once the key is, once you've established yourself and you understand a couple of things, you've got what we call your proof of concept, right? Proof of concept would be, I know what I'm selling, to whom, how often, and at what price. and at what frequency or what cadence. So once I've got that down and I understand what my place in the marketplace is, that's immediately when you start innovating and saying what's next on their list. What is what on the list of our clients, what is going to be the most important parts of their life, and what is going to make it a necessity and an importance that they engage with us still.
Right. And it seems like a tall order. I mean, you mentioned Blockbuster in there, and you're making me think of Netflix, right? If they had just stuck around with, hey, we'll mail DVDs to you, order a DVD and get it in 3 days. I mean, they would have been behind so quick. And then they moved to streaming. And even then they moved into making their own TV shows and movies and crazy things like that. And so yeah, I like this idea of you figure out your proof of concept, but then once that happens, I mean, it gets to the marketplace, and then you're going to have competitors, things are already going to start to go out of date. So it's time to innovate. So now you have me really curious about these 3 businesses that you built. So did you go through the same sort of mindset, the same sort of process with your own businesses?
Yeah, similar. One of the best lessons I ever learned was literally the first week of my first company. And I had left college. I was going to school for accounting and finance, and I broke my leg pretty badly, and had to be out of school for a while. And when the time came for me to go back to school, it just wasn't going to happen because I was paying my own way, and it wasn't going to work out. So I needed a way to make money. And so I start in my first business, a landscaping company. And I remember going out on my very first appointment. It was a word of mouth referral. I called up the prospect. I said, I'll be by. I'll give him a proposal. And so I go there, I give him a proposal. And what do you know? I win the job. Next day, second appointment, got that job too. 2 days later, got the third job. And I thought, man, I must be good at this. Robert, I found my calling. Oh, this is awesome, And so I call my father up and I say, hey, Dad, you're not going to believe it. I'm 3 for 3. He's like, congratulations. Why don't you go back to the 3 people who hired you and ask them why they hired you? Like, what was their decision-making process? And I'm like, yeah, good idea. Let's do that. And so I go back and I ask the last group, I'm like, why did you choose me of the 5 people you told me that you interviewed? And they kind of like talked amongst themselves and like, yeah, what do you think? Should we tell them? Should we tell them? And then they come back to me and they say, got to be honest, but you were the only one who showed up. Oh, and I said, excuse me? And they said, yeah, well, I don't know what's wrong with you people, but you people, like they're all like, I belong to the landscaping family. I don't know what's wrong with you people, but you people don't call back. You're not responsive. You send a proposal. And all I heard with all of these complaints, and Robert, you know what I learned first week of my business is people don't think of the positives when they think of hiring somebody or working with somebody. They actually go to the negatives. And I started to think about that. And I said, all right, well, at the end of that year, all I did was I wrote down every complaint I heard about contractors. You're late. You're not responsive. You tell me one thing, you charge me another. You don't start on time. You don't finish on time. And I created a program where I took the top 5 complaints, I rolled it into my business plan, and every time I gave a proposal, I gave the option with a premium option with a guarantee that those 5 complaints will never happen to you in this option, or you get all your money back. And this is what Netflix did to Blockbuster. Netflix said, you're not going to have to drive there and back. No late fees, no penalties. We don't run out of titles. And if you want that from us, let us mail order your DVDs to you. If you want to stay with Blockbuster, stay with it. And one of the things that I learned is I separated myself from the competition right there. That was a message that resonated with my clientele because they were just flat out sick and tired of hearing the same crap from their prospects. And they got frustrated. And so as I built my name as the person who would just guarantee it, start it on time, finish it on time, or kill myself getting there, we started winning business on a regular basis, for our work. And we were just totally outstripping our competitors, and they couldn't figure out why. They're like, how are you doing this? And I said, well, you know what? I'm not sitting there being flowery and telling everybody how great everything is. I sat down with them and I said, I understand how upset you are. So I have a program that addresses your concerns, and I fully guarantee the result. It does come with a premium, but I have the regular program and I've got the premium program. You tell me which one you want. And the premium program outsold every other program at least 2-1, to the point that I just dropped the other programs because most people were choosing the premium one anyway. So for me, learning what was upsetting or concerning you about working with someone like me, that was the quickest path to eliminating my competitor and putting myself in a more favorable light with my prospects.
That is super cool. And this sort of subject, I've been trying to get my head around this for the last few months here about, like digging out your own category. I've been reading books like Blue Ocean Strategy, things like that. But I really like your strategy here because it's like your thought process makes it so that you don't have to do a lot of thinking. You look at what everyone traditionally hates about your industry and then focus to eliminating that. And, as you were starting to tell your story about how you got the 3-for-3 people took you, hired you for the contracting, you made me think back to the various, contractors I've had at my house in the past year. Like I had a guy repair a fence. I had a guy repair the garage door opener. I think there was maybe like a plumber in there somewhere. And I mean, every single time it was like some of the usual hangups, right? It would be like, I'd go and check Yelp. I couldn't find anything there. I'd go and check Facebook. I'd find a few people to call. And sometimes I'd call a number and it'd be like a personal cell phone, or it'd be like they wouldn't call me back. I'd have to call like 5 different people to get someone to call me back, and then they wouldn't be able to come out there the same day, or they wouldn't show up at all. I mean, all the usual things that I'm sure that you've heard. And so, I mean, this is really great because it's like doing the things that everyone cares about, but your competition also doesn't want to do. And I mean, you're also making me think of when I hired my landscaping guys. I was like, the number one thing I care about is that we have like a recurring billing, because before, when I had my, landscapers before that, I had to like write them a personal check every month and leave it under the mat. And I was like, just bill me through PayPal. I just want it to be done. I don't want the extra hassle of having to pay you. So this is really cool that you, number one, you focused on that. Number two, made it a premium option. And then number three, the premium option ended up outselling everything. So that way you just kind of were left with that. And so it's like you didn't really even have a huge leap to make there. It's just like you set this up and then your business naturally evolved there. And so, when you're mentioning this premium option, is there an easy way to answer like what was the price point difference between the regular service and the premium service with the guarantee? It
was about 35%. Was the difference between the two. So if I were to install a project, it was the same exact project. And I would say, okay, let's say it was a $50,000 job. I would say, okay, according to the production schedule, I would start it on this day, maybe 6 weeks from now, and I would end it, 3 weeks later. And, barring rain or changes in scope or, something goes wrong, the ground's too muddy or we get too much rain or something like that, access to plant material, it might take a little longer. And then I would give the $65,000 option that says, you said you wanted us to start in a week. I'll start in a week. You said you wanted it done 10 days after that. I promise it'll be done by that day. We will put a lifetime guarantee on all of the plant material. That hard to reach plant, if I have to go drive to Massachusetts from New Jersey to go get it, I'll go get it. And so basically nothing would get in the way of your job being done. And it was all fully guaranteed. If that was important to you, then choose the $65,000 option. If the other parts of the program were fine with you, choose the $50,000. What's important to you? And so they would say, wow, I can have this done right away, and you'll start and you'll be done. They'll say, great, I'm going on vacation that week, or that's during spring break. I won't be around. I'll take that option. And, generally speaking, it was, and there was some other value, lifetime guarantee on the plant material. They might have $20,000 worth of plant material that they just got guaranteed for life. So big, that's got a lot of value to it. So those were the things that really started to make a difference, and the prospects really really responded to it.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, and I mean, it sounds like that people loved it too, because it's like in any kind of this like contractor situation, you want it done yesterday, right? You want a real quick, easy transaction. You want the guy to be there, know what he's doing, and just, you say out of his way, he says out of yours, whatever kind of service has to be done, it's just done. And so now you're making me wonder, well, did you have any trouble implementing this? Because it's easy enough to say, oh, well, they're paying me more money, I'm more motivated to do it. But as you know, sometimes it's tough to have that get up and go day in and day out every single job. So did you have any difficulties in actually living up to the promise and the expectations?
Well, sure. It was, we were a seasonal business at the time, and we're in the state of New Jersey where, the ground can freeze at certain times of the year. You can get unexpected weather. There's all sorts of things that can come in the way of, you not achieving, your goals. I mean, you have shorter days until we've turned the clocks back. So there are a lot of things that can get in the way, but we were aggressive about it. We would stay late after dark and put lights on if we had to. We would show up on the weekends if we have to. It was really, the question wasn't, was it hard? It was hard. I mean, there's no way around it. We were just willing to hustle in a way that we just out hustled our competition. We just literally outlasted them.
So why do you think that was? Like, how did you guys have more hustle and a better work ethic than everyone else? Was it just like a matter of like your personality and you hired good people on your team, like you were all born with it? Or like, how did you have that really good hustle?
Well, I think it's just, I think that's one of the things that you just choose to commit to or not. People go into business for all different reasons. And one reason why some people go into business is for lifestyle reasons. So they don't have to work late. They don't have to work weekends. When I started out, I was trying to make a name for myself. I was trying to establish myself in the area. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do whatever, however, in order to get it done. And so that was the attitude that we took. It's really more depending on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve in your business, because you could, your business can be a supplemental side hustle, in which case you're working part-time. You could have the goal to be number one in your niche or own your geographic territory. That could be another reason. So mine was to create a sustainable, profitable business full-time, and that was important to me. So I wanted to, so that was important to me to make sure that we did that. And for that reason, that's why I was willing to put in the extra effort.
That's really awesome. And what I'm hearing from you is that, you can choose whatever sort of lifestyle you want to have. If you want to be the person that, works weekends or does a part-time or whatever, but it sounds like it's super duper important to make that decision. And I imagine that a lot of business owners out there just have no plan, just the life they've built, the lifestyle they have, the working hours, all that stuff. It just sort of happened to them. They didn't go in with a plan. So then they're probably not happy because it's like they didn't really have a choice in the matter. It all just happened randomly. So that's what I'm hearing from you is that, the worst thing that we can do is not have a goal or not have a vision of how we want our day-to-day to look. And then if you make that decision ahead of time and then build towards it, it seems like it's a lot less messy that way.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, when you're clear about what the goals of your business are, the path you take will kind of illuminate for you. Once you understand the target, how you choose to get there and how you're going to make that happen becomes a lot easier because you know what you're trying to accomplish. And there's certain things that will align with that ultimate goal, and there's certain things that will not align with that ultimate goal. So as you lay out your master plan, it will that'll help you tremendously in your decision making.
Well, having said that, have you had any life crises or any times when that master plan didn't go your way? Did you have any like real massive bumps in the road where you were like, geez, everything's blowing up on me, I don't even know what I'm going to do next?
Well, sure. I mean, I sold my landscaping business after 6 years, and then I went into the construction business. And even though I had grown up in that industry, I was moving into new home building. I had a log home dealership and distributorship. I built modular homes as well. So I got into different lines of business, and they all presented their own challenge. So there were, I'm learning a new industry. I'm getting involved in things in ways that I hadn't, and the stakes increase every time I did it. I was also buying land on speculation and then building homes and then selling that land outright. Sorry, selling that project outright. So there was a lot of learning curves. While they were very exciting, the mistakes that I was making as I got bigger, they're bigger mistakes and they're more costly mistakes. So, navigating through those were a challenge, but I was committed to learning it.
Okay, great. Well, do you think that is there something about your mindset or your actions that you think that are pretty unique to you that maybe that make you really great, that maybe if someone isn't as successful, they're missing out on some of these components, these qualities? I'd be hard pressed to say that I have something unique that someone else doesn't. What I can tell you is that I learned at a very young age that there's very little competition for the number one spot, and that very few people actually have the goal to be number one. And if you go after that slot, it's not that it's going to be easy, but it's not going to be easy. But there's just simply not much competition for it, and so. If you do set your sights on number one, chances are you're not going to have much in your way other than your own effort. And I learned that very early on, and I've found that that's been the case really with every business I've owned and every client I've ever advised, is that if that's your goal, if you want to be number one, man, there's very little getting in your way. And number one doesn't have to mean the biggest. If you want to be the number one search engine in the world, yeah, okay, you're going to go after Google. But if you want to be the best search engine, if you want to have certain aspects that Google just can't match, there's nobody else out there you're competing with. So I kind of like the chances of the bold and provocative entrepreneur that's trying to really make a statement about where they're at right now. So. Yeah, super cool. I love it. Like number one doesn't have to mean the biggest. It can just mean that you're the best. That you have the best service, the best features, things other people can't do or won't do. I mean, I love it. So having gone through all this craziness you've gone through, selling these businesses and coaching all these people, is there anything, like if you could send back a message in time 10, 20 years to your younger self, is there anything that you tell your younger self?
Yeah, what I would have done is I would have gone for scalability quicker. I spent a good portion of the first 20 years of my career being too much of an operator, I loved the work, so I did too much of the work, I think. And I still repeat to myself, Carl, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should be doing it. Just because you can do it, you shouldn't be. So I always am reminding myself about that. And I would have gone for delegation and scalability much earlier in my career than I've done now.
And I find that really interesting because that advice right there, that's like the number one piece of advice from everyone on this podcast. I would say it's mentioned 60%, 70% of the time that you can't do it yourself. You have to have a team. You have to delegate. And that's a thing that I've been slowly getting better and better at. But I need to have more of a team and do it less of myself. And I mean, as you know, it's hard to retrain your brain in that way because it's like there's the ego factor, there's the control freak factor, there's that aspect of getting some enjoyment in you doing the work yourself. So did you have any tricks in getting into that more of the delegation business owner mindset? Is there anything that you tell yourself these days so that way you don't backslide into those old bad habits?
So here's the well, in the beginning it was because I had a problem with my leg and I was limited physically at times. But here's what I think of now. Like I use a football analogy, and in football, one of the positions is quarterback. And if you watch any football game, whenever the quarterback holds on to the ball too long, bad things happen. Good things rarely happen when the quarterback holds on to the ball too long. And if you watch the Super Bowl, you saw that. At the end of the game, Tom Brady held on to the ball just a bit too long. He fumbled it. The Eagles got it, and that effectively ended the Super Bowl. But if you look at the quarterback's job is he touches the ball every time. He takes the ball, and his job is to hand it off to either the running back or the receiver, who then takes it and runs with it. And I kind of look at that as my job, that anything that crosses my desk, my job is to get it in the hands of the person who's supposed to handle it as quickly as possible. And if I'm effective in doing that, then then good things will happen. But if something lands on or sits on my desk too long, you know what? Bad things start to happen. So I like to make sure that I'm getting rid of things as quickly as possible.
I can completely relate. We've all had those projects from hell that lasted 3 or 6 months when they should have only taken 3 weeks. So really great advice. Get it in the hands of someone who will make it happen, get it done as fast as possible. Well, this is really great stuff, and you've been really inspiring, giving us a lot to think about and chew on. Can you tell us about your websites, your offers, where we can find out more about you, buy from you, find out what makes you tick, all that great stuff?
Sure. Thank you. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me, you can go to carlgould.com. That's Carl with a C, carlgould.com, or our consulting firm is 7-Stage Advisors with an O, advisors.com. And for your listeners, Robert, we do a consultation that we call the business analysis. We typically charge $1,500 for that, but for any of your listeners that would like to get that for free, just go to carlgould.com or 7stageadvisors.com. And in the contact page, just write business analysis, and we'll make sure that your listeners get a free consultation, and we'll show them 5 ways to grow their business.
Super awesome. Very generous of you. So once again, that is carlgould.com, carlgould.com, and 7stageadvisors.com. And if you want to get that business analysis and you want to see those 5 areas where you can and you should improve, make sure that on either one of those sites, carlgould.com or 7stageadvisors.com, you click on the contact page, you say that you want that business analysis, and Carl and his team will hook you up. They will give you the information that you need to get in order to get to where you need to and where you should go. So, I mean, this has been a really great conversation. I love the stories. I love the advice. And I think people are going to get a lot of value out of listening from this today. So I appreciate you coming by, Carl, and everyone. We'll see you over at carlgould.com. So thanks, Carl, for being on the show and for telling us what you know, and for just being really entertaining, and for helping us out in getting past the rough stuff, the middle period of sometimes figuring out where we need to go. And in business, it's always kind of a constant journey, and so you've helped make that journey a little bit easier for us. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Robert. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with your group, and I hope they take me up on the offer for the analysis. I think they'll get a lot out of it.
Did you leave us a quick review on iTunes yet? It's quick and easy. Just go to marketeroftheday.com/iTunes, click the View in iTunes button, and we would be very grateful.